We do not understand God's reckoning of time, but we also have been shut out from understanding the feast of the Lord, which the New Testament says are all shadow pictures of good things to come.
The Prophecies and the Feast of the Lord, presented by Michael Rood.
Shalom, this is Michael Rood in Jerusalem. I am here in the Ophel Gardens Archaeological Park on the steps leading to the Temple Mount, Mount Moriah. In Hebrew, Har Moriah, the mountain where Yahweh will be our teacher. This is the most important mountain in the entire world. More blood has been shed on these few acres than on any other parcel of land on the planet. It is on the north peak of this mountain that Abraham prepared an altar of unhewn stone and bound his son Isaac to the wood of the sacrifice. On this same mountain, a male lamb of the first year, with his head entangled in a crown of thorns, was waiting as the substitute offering for Abraham's son. And it was here, on this mountaintop, that the sacrifices that were an integral part of the feast of the Lord were offered by the Levitical priesthood. When Moses received the Torah at Mount Sinai, Israel was instructed to never sacrifice the Passover lamb inside the gates of their own cities, but they were to go up to the place where Yahweh would put his name, and that is where Israel would keep the rehearsal of the Passover. More than 500 years later, King David saw this very mountain by divine revelation, and he set out to take it from the Jebusites who were squatting on the land promised to the children of Abraham. David conquered the Jebusite city, which then became known as Ir-David, the city of David, ancient Jerusalem. He then purchased this mountaintop as the place where he would build the temple and institute the temple service. The temple service liturgy was developed by the prophets King David, Asaph, and Nathan. For the first time, they saw by divine revelation that the temple service was to be a shadow picture of the coming Messiah, David's descendant, who would literally be the fulfillment of the Passover sacrifice. And the fulfillment would happen right here in the city of Jerusalem. The Almighty had ordained this plan from the very beginning, and commanded his people to come up to the feast of Passover each year. If they obeyed his commandments and participated in the temple service during the feast, there would be no way for them to miss the moment when the Messiah arrived to fulfill the very rehearsals that they had been practicing for more than 1,000 years. This is the place where it was all planned, orchestrated, rehearsed, and finally took place. This is his story. Join us in the Lester Summerall television studios where this multimedia presentation was recorded. This is Bible Prophecy 101. Now, Episode 8 in the 26-part series on the Prophecies and the Feast of the Lord, Mount Moriah, the mountain where Yahweh will be our teacher.
And so it is around the table that family then shares the bread and the wine, and that is the holy convocation that God set aside to be done in the family, with the father as the high priest of his home. And we see that even in the Brit Hadashah, in the New Testament, it indicates that there is only one head, and that is the Messiah. One head, and then all of us are all on the same level. But yet there is another head, and it is the head of the house. The husband is the high priest of that home, and he is directly underneath the Messiah as the head of that home. There's no pastor, there's no apostle or prophet that outranks the head of a house. The head of the house submits limited subjection to those who have ministries within the body of the believers, but it is that man who is responsible for his family and for training up his family. He is the high priest for his home, and it is in no other place that we see it as beautifully is at the beginning of Shabbat, when it's like we turn the light switch off to the world. And we say, we don't need your money, we don't need your entertainment, we don't need the world. God is our sufficiency, and he said that all we had to do is rest in him, and he would take care of these things. So now, in the day of the at the sixth millennium and at the last time getting ready for the Sabbath millennium, we see there is some work to be done. There is some house cleaning to be done. And this is what we are doing now, because in the Sabbath we will see the Messiah reign, and it says there remains a rest, a Sabbath for the children of God. And it is the Messiah's millennial reign that we look forward to. That is the weekly Sabbath, but yet then we see that there are also, as it goes on, seasonal feasts. These are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which you shall proclaim in their seasons. And these are determined by the barley crop in the land of Israel to start out the month of the Aviv. And as it says in Deuteronomy, 3 times a year you will go up to the rehearsals, at the place that I shall choose out of all the tribes to put my name. And so Jerusalem was a place that was chosen by God, because this is where all the rehearsals would take place, because the fulfillment of the rehearsals when the Messiah comes will be taking place at that very location. So I'd like to take you to the city of Jerusalem and to the map of Jerusalem, and this is the old city as it currently stands. And you'll see on your right-hand side, you have the Kidron Valley that goes around and joins the Hinnom Valley, or the Valley of Gehenna. Up the middle is the Tyropoeon, or the Cheesemaker Valley. It forms the Mount of Olives on the right, Mount Moriah in the middle, the Temple Mount, and Mount Zion. The highest peak of Mount Moriah to this very day is still north of the city wall of Jerusalem. And this becomes very important as I take you into the Mount Moriah, but you can see that the valleys form the Sheen, which is the first letter in Shaddai, or Almighty God, and it forms God's mark upon the land. And I want you to go with me and stand here in the Tyropoeon Valley and look over toward the Mount of Olives and look directly at the side of Mount Moriah. Here you are, standing, looking at the side of